Single Dad CEO's life-changing request of his maid reveals an amazing love story he never expected. Jason looked out at the dim light creeping through the curtains, the soft sound of his daughter Lily's giggles pulling him from the edge of despair. At 38, as a single father running a tech startup, the days felt heavy, suffocating under the weight of bills and dwindling investor hopes. Each morning began with the same ritual, her bright smile igniting hope within him, a reminder of everything he loved and everything at stake. With the pressure of the suburban hustle around him, the echoes of impending doom loomed like shadows edging closer, the coffee shop buzzed with chatter, families flocking to playgrounds, unaware of his struggles. Here he was, a CEO in an affluent suburb drowning in corporate expectations while he tried to juggle daughters' school projects and board meeting pitches. As bills piled high like a mountain threatening to topple over, Jason's resolve faltered. Desperation led him to Maria, a hard-working immigrant maid in her 30s, with the same determination burning in her eyes as she cleaned his cluttered home. He was hesitant but had no choice, his chaotic life demanded reinforcements. "Can you start tomorrow?" he asked, feeling the nerves pulse in his chest. He couldn't help but notice the unyielding kindness in her smile, yet their worlds felt miles apart. Maria threw herself into her work, but every swipe of the duster twisted something inside both of them. "Jason? I can help with the dishes too," she remarked as she wiped her hands on her apron, her eyes glancing wistfully towards the messy kitchen table where Lily crafted her latest masterpiece with glue and sparkles. Suddenly, the gap between them shrank just a little. "Sure, if you don't mind," he replied, overwhelmed, still grappling with the reality of hiring someone to clean up after him. It felt strange, yet in those moments, a vulnerable connection began to take root. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Lily's school assignment seems impossible," he confessed one evening, an uncharacteristic vulnerability spilling from him, as Maria folded laundry. "It's about how to make life better for others. I can't even figure it out." Her gentle gaze shifted from the clothes to his face, seeing a man not only battling corporate giants but also confronting his own limitations. The interaction hung in the air, a moment weighed down by honesty. For Jason, it was a kaleidoscope of emotions, feelings he had buried beneath layers of pride and expectations. For Maria, it revealed layers of understanding for the man struggling before her, a reminder that their paths weren't so different after all. However, the sweetness turned sour as Jason's startup hit rocky waters. Betrayal from friends he trusted echoed in his mind, leaving him teetering on the edge. Misunderstandings with Maria developed as the demands of their lives pulled at them like a riptide. As they began absorbing the burdens of their separate realities, isolation crept in, and both felt the gnawing fear of losing what connection they shared. Struggling to understand their worlds, would they ever bridge that divide? Just as Jason thought he could find answers, he knew the question remained: would he dare reach out to Maria once more or stay stuck in the whirlwind of fear and judgment? Their journey was only beginning, and the next steps promised an evolution neither expected. Jason sat at the edge of his bed, staring blankly at the wall. The sunlight danced across the room, but all he could focus on was the ominous weight in his chest. He couldn't shake the thought of the board meeting that lay ahead. Everything felt fragile, and if a single thread snapped, it could all come crashing down. Just as despair threatened to swallow him, Lily burst through the door, her drawing clutched tightly in her hand. "Daddy! Look at what I made!" she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement, casting away the shadows from his heart, even if only for a moment. "That's amazing, sweetheart. You've made the world look beautiful," he said, forcing a smile, but worry gnawed at him. He didn't want to let her down, like he felt he'd already let down so many others. Later that day, as he returned from yet another failed investor meeting, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Maria: "Hope you and Lily are okay. Need anything?" A wave of warmth flooded over him. It was a simple gesture, but it meant more than he expected. He couldn't shake off the memory of their conversations, the way she genuinely cared for him and Lily. Maybe there was something more to their connection, something worth exploring. Yet, as much as he wanted to reply, self-doubt clawed at him. Would she think he was burdening her? Was opening up even an option for someone like him, a CEO battling demons of his own? As he pondered this, the doorbell rang. It was Maria, standing there in the doorway, her long hair falling freely around her shoulders, a soft smile breaking across her face. Relief washed over him. He didn't have to face this alone. "Hi, is now a bad time?" she asked, her voice soft and reassuring. "No, not at all," he replied, stepping aside to let her in. "I'm glad you came." While she worked around the house, he couldn't ignore how comforting her presence was. It felt as though, with each sweep of her hand across the counters, she was not only cleaning but also helping him scrape away the layers of anxiety that had built up. "Jason, can I ask you something personal?" Maria ventured after a moment of silence that lingered between them. He could sense the weight of what she was about to say. "Of course," he replied, his heartbeat accelerating. "Are you okay?" "You seem different lately," she said, concern lacing her words. Her question struck a chord. The layers he had built, the walls around his heart, began trembling. "Honestly? I'm not okay at all. My business is falling apart, and I'm terrified of disappointing Lily." Maria's eyes softened. "You're not alone in this. If you need a friend, I'm here." Those words, simple yet profound, wrapped around him like a cocoon of warmth. Suddenly, it felt as if the divide between them was something they could work on together. As he inhaled deeply, the promise of something new began growing within him, an unexpected hope. Little did they both know that this would set them on a course neither had anticipated. "Maybe I need more than just help," he admitted softly, but before he could articulate the thought, the door swung open again. Standing there was a figure from Jason's past, one he hoped never to see again. "What are you doing here?" he stammered, panic gripping his insides. Maria looked between them, her expression unreadable. The fragile moment of bonding shattered, paving the way for an uncertain confrontation. Would this mark the end of their budding connection, or perhaps, the beginning of a fight neither of them expected? Jason's heart raced. The familiar figure in the doorway sent a jolt of dread through him. Mark had always been trouble, the kind of trouble that Jason thought he'd escaped when he left their old lives behind. Now here he was, looking as smug as ever, with a knowing smirk that made Jason clench his fists involuntarily. "Surprised to see me?" Mark drawled, stepping inside without invitation, his gaze sliding to Maria and back to Jason. "Thought you could just abandon everything and move on." "Leave, Mark," Jason commanded, trying to keep his voice steady, but the tremor was unmistakable. He didn't want Maria to see this side of him, defensive, cornered. Maria stood frozen, watching the exchange unfold. Jason's tension was palpable, her eyes darting between the two men. "Maybe you should go," she suggested quietly, trying to defuse the situation. "Just a friendly chat," Mark replied, casting an insincere smile, his tone dripping with false camaraderie. "I heard your business was struggling. Thought I'd stop by to see how the big CEO is holding up." The words felt like a punch to the gut. Jason clenched his jaw, fighting back the memories of failures and compromises that led him to this moment. He could almost hear them echoing in his mind, a reminder of every time he felt small, every time his dreams fell short. "No one asked for your opinion," Jason shot back, taking a step forward, protectively. He could feel the heat rising in his chest, a mix of anger and relief that Maria was right there, witnessing him confront the ghosts of his past. Mark shrugged, unfazed. "I'm just here to remind you that you can't outrun your past, buddy. It has a way of catching up with you." "Enough!" Jason roared, his voice ringing like thunder in the small room. "I'm not your buddy. You don't get to come here and intimidate me. You're not part of my life anymore. Maria's gaze bore into Jason, her eyes glimmering with empathy. She took a slow step forward, deliberately shifting the dynamics of the confrontation. Jason is right, Mark. You need to leave. The air thickened with tension. Mark's expression flickered for a moment, caught between disbelief and irritation. You think you can just dictate terms to me, huh? He stepped closer, a threat looming in his posture. Jason's instincts kicked in. Step away from her. I won't to let you hurt her. But Mark just laughed, a mockery that dug deep. You protect her. You're one phone call away from losing everything again. Jason felt his breath hitch in his throat. Those words hit harder than any punch. His business struggles, his fears, the gnawing doubt that had followed him relentlessly. He was just trying to be a good dad to Lily, to be more than what his past had dictated. Maria placed a hand on Jason's arm, grounding him. Don't listen to him, Jason. You're stronger than this. We'll figure it out together. Suddenly, a flicker of purpose ignited within Jason. He turned to Mark, his voice steady. You don't know the first thing about strength. Strength is in choosing to rise above the past. I will not let you invade my future. Mark's smirk faltered, anger flashing across his face before he finally retreated. Fine. But don't think this is over. As the door thudded shut behind him, Jason felt the adrenaline dissipate, leaving behind a weighty silence. He turned to Maria, feeling raw but renewed. I didn't want you to see that side of me. Maria met his gaze, her expression softening. You stood up for what matters. That's what I see. That's who you are. In that moment, Jason felt something shift within him. It wasn't just about protection or business anymore. It was about choosing the right people to stand by his side, even if he still had a long way to go. But as the quiet settled into an uneasy calm, another thought crept into his mind. Mark's words echoed, losing everything. What if the real struggle was still ahead? As Jason stared into Maria's reassuring eyes, a question hung in the air, heavy and unspoken. Was he ready to embrace not just the challenges, but the looming potential of a future that also meant letting someone in? Completely. He took a step back, breath catching. What would he do next? Jason took a deep breath, his heart still pounding from the confrontation. The silence in the room felt thick, almost suffocating. Maria's eyes held a mixture of concern and admiration, and he felt both grateful and exposed. He wasn't just battling Mark, he was fighting against all the insecurities that had haunted him since he took on the role of a single dad and CEO. What are we going to do about this? He finally asked, breaking the tension that hung heavy between them. It felt like a logical question, but beneath it was a whirlpool of emotions: fear, uncertainty, and a glimmer of hope that he could turn things around. Maria stepped closer, her voice steady. We need a plan. Mark won't just back off, and we can't let him get to you like that. You're worth more than the past. Jason smiled weakly, appreciating her unwavering support. He could hardly remember the last time someone stood by him so firmly. It's just I never expected to be dealing with any of this. I thought what? That running away would make it all disappear. She interjected gently. It doesn't work that way. You've built a new life, Jason. It's okay to feel scared. Just don't lose sight of how far you've come. He nodded, digesting her words. The truth was, he had been running for too long. The fear of failure loomed over him like a shadow. Every risk felt like a gamble, and with Lily in the picture, every choice seemed monumental. I want to protect you and Lily, he admitted, his voice barely rising above a whisper. Those words broke something open inside Maria. You already are. Facing Mark took guts. You need to trust that same strength, moving forward. Let us work together to build something solid here. Jason's heart raced again, but this time it was from hope, not fear. Having a partner in all this, sharing the burdens, the dreams, was a notion he had long tucked away. You really believe we can? She grinned, a light glimmering in her eyes. Absolutely. And who knows, maybe through this mess, you'll find out there's more waiting for you, more than just the business and the past. Jason looked intensely into her eyes, trying to understand the depths of her encouragement. Could this be the moment that sparked change, the moment a path towards something meaningful began? Just then, his phone buzzed on the table, pulling him out of his thoughts. He glanced at the screen, and his heart sank. It was an alert about a major setback at work. Profit margins were dropping, and it was worse than he had feared. Jason? Maria's voice cut in, her concern evident. What's wrong? He ran a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of reality crashing back in. It's work. We're in trouble. In that instant, the fragile optimism cracked, replaced by the all-too-familiar dread. But then he remembered Maria's words, her unwavering presence, and strangely, it steadied him. Maybe it's time I stop trying to do this all alone. And I'll be right beside you, every step of the way, Maria said, determination infusing her voice. A spark of confidence ignited within Jason. Maybe this partnership could be something more than just business, it could be a lifeline. The way forward was uncertain, but he felt ready to fight. Mark wouldn't he win? He wouldn't he allow it? With Maria by his side, he felt emboldened to face whatever else lurked in his past and present, but just as he began to solidify his new resolve, another thought popped into his mind. Was he ready to let Maria into his life fully? Past wounds were healing, but vulnerability still loomed as an obstacle. As he raised his head to look at her again, something shifted in the atmosphere, an unspoken truth that hung heavily between them. He opened his mouth, ready to share his heart. What would that mean for them? The air felt electric, charged with unspoken words that simmered just beneath the surface. Jason's heart raced, uncertainty battling against a dawning hope. Maria was looking at him as if she could read his deepest thoughts, and the tension cracked like a fault line beneath their feet. Jason, what is it? She urged softly, drawing nearer. The warmth of her presence heightened the tension, drawing him into a space far outside the chaos of the world around them. He hesitated, grappling with the weight of his fear and desire. Would revealing his feelings shatter their budding alliance? No matter how daunting it seemed, he needed to be honest. I want more than just a partner at work. I'm scared of what losing that could mean, but I also, with his heart pounding loudly in his ears, he poured out his feelings. But I want you, Maria. I want to explore what this is between us. It's more than business. A flicker of surprise flashed across her face, quickly replaced by something warmer and deeper. Her smile spread across her features, lighting up the whole room. You have no idea how relieved I am to hear that, she confessed, her voice steadying. I was afraid you didn't see me that way. Jason felt a wave of relief wash over him. I didn't want to ruin what we had. But the truth is, everything feels different around you. You make me feel brave. Brave enough to face Mark? She asked, her eyes twinkling with a mischief that softened the seriousness of their conversation. Brave enough for anything. He took a half step towards her, drawn in by the gravity of her gaze. Especially if it means making our lives better. Together. They stood in a silent moment, their eyes locked, a bridge growing between them. Within that silence, Jason felt something inside him shift. He wasn't merely a single dad or a struggling CEO anymore. He was a man who had found a partner, a friend, and maybe something more, but it was more than just romantic feelings. The pressure of work still loomed. The threat from Mark still hung uncomfortably overhead. I guess we still have to figure out how to tackle the mess at work, he added, realization settling back in. Let us do it together, Maria said, her tone shifting back to practical, but there was a lighter edge now. We'll make a plan. Attack this head on. Then we can spend some time figuring out the other stuff. Jason nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Yes, let us do that. As they began outlining strategies to confront Mark's threats, a sense of unity enveloped them. The room felt less suffocating, filled instead with energy and collaboration. They tossed ideas back and forth, their voices rising and falling like a rhythmic dance. For the first time in a long while, Jason didn't feel alone. Together, they could weather the storm, yet, even as they focused on work, a nagging thought lingered in Jason's mind. Was he being foolish to let emotions cloud his judgment? As evening settled, he looked at the papers strewn across the table: plans, numbers, projections. Behind the numbers, he felt something larger brewing, a blend of fear and exhilaration. "Maria, are we really ready for this?" he asked, the doubt creeping back in. Her expression softened, determination etched on her features. "We are. But it's not just about Mark or work, is it? There's so much more waiting for us." Her words hung in the air, tantalizing and terrifying. What if this was more than just a partnership born from necessity? What could it mean if they truly allowed themselves to explore the possibilities? Jason swallowed hard, the weight of uncertainty pressing on his chest, pushing him closer to a decision. Would he take the leap, allowing vulnerability into the corners of his heart? Just then, his phone buzzed again with a new alert: a message from Mark. The blood drained from Jason's face. What new twist was waiting for him? As the screen lit up with Mark's familiar name, a knot of anxiety twisted deep within him. This was far from over. But now he had someone who would stand by him, come what may. And with that thought, he realized the greater challenge of all lay ahead. Would he have the courage to keep that connection alive under pressure? The moment felt heavy with decisions yet to be made. What would Mark's message reveal, and how would it change everything? Jason's hand trembled as he picked up his phone, his heart racing again. He stared at the screen, the message from Mark blaring in bold letters. "Meet me at the office first thing tomorrow. We need to talk." His breath hitched. The uncertainty swirled like a storm in his chest. What could Mark want? He glanced at Maria, who had already noticed his hesitation. Her brows knitted together in concern, yet there was a softness in her eyes that made him feel seen. "Hey," she said gently, stepping closer. "What does it say?" "It's from Mark. He wants to meet tomorrow." "Now that doesn't sound good," Maria murmured, though Jason could see the determination flicker behind her concern. Jason ran a hand through his hair. "I don't think he's happy about us. I told him I wouldn't let him dictate how I run my business anymore." "That's a good thing, right?" Standing up to him. "You can't let him intimidate you," she said, her voice steady. "Yeah, but what if he retaliates?" "We'll face it together," she promised, her hand brushing against his arm. The contact sent shivers of warmth through him, cutting through the knot of anxiety that he drew a deep breath, letting her support bolster him. "I just don't want to drag you into all of this. You mean too much to me." Maria met his gaze, her eyes steady. "You're not dragging me anywhere. I want to help. I want this. Us." Jason felt a surge of hope, pushing back against the dread nibbling at his brain. "Okay, let us prepare. Together." In that moment, they formed a plan laid out across Maria's living room floor like a blueprint. They bounced ideas off one another, plotting every potential scenario as the evening wore on. Hours passed, filled with coffee, laughter, and the occasional moment of silence where both of them settled into contemplative thoughts. Each time Jason looked at Maria, the world outside seemed to fade, leaving just the two of them. "Hey," she said suddenly, breaking the comfortable silence. "Do you remember the first time we met?" Jason chuckled, shaking his head. "How could I forget? You nearly knocked over that stack of files right in front of Mark." "Right. And I nearly quit on the spot. I was so intimidated by him. Honestly, your confidence was remarkable. You handled that moment better than I could have." Their laughter echoed in the room, the heaviness from earlier lifting with each shared memory. But as the night grew older, so did Jason's apprehension. A part of him couldn't shake the feeling that Mark was capable of playing dirty. But the thought of Maria by his side made him brave. As they tucked in for the night, her hand brushed against his again, lingering just a moment longer than necessary. Jason's heart raced, reminded that an unexpected relationship was unfolding between them alongside this professional battle. "Whatever happens tomorrow," Maria whispered, "we'll handle it. Together." "Together," he echoed, feeling a rush of awareness wash over him. This wasn't just a fight for his career, it was a fight for their future. But a doubt crept in, gnawing at him once more. Could he be strong enough to protect her from Mark's threat without sacrificing their budding partnership? His eyes fell on the ceiling, heart thumping loudly in the midnight silence. Tomorrow would change everything. Would he have the strength to embrace whatever came next? As sleep took him, Jason felt the weight of uncertainty merge with the flicker of hope. And amid it all, the strategy for confronting Mark awaited him. The next morning would bring clarity, but which path would he choose? The question lingered in the air like an unshakable shadow: what would he risk for love? Jason awoke to the soft light filtering through the curtains, a stark contrast to the storm brewing in his stomach. He rubbed his face with both hands, trying to shake off the remnants of sleep and the lingering doubts. Today was the day everything would change. Maria was already awake, leaning against the kitchen counter with a steaming cup of coffee in hand. The sight of her eased a bit of the tension he had carried with him since last night. Her hair was tousled and cheeks slightly pink from sleep, a vision of comfort amidst his chaos. "Good morning," she said, a soft smile gracing her lips. "I made your favorite." "Thanks," he replied, though his mind was still racing with thoughts of the meeting. "I might need it more than usual today." "I know." She stepped closer, letting her warmth envelop him. "Let us remind ourselves why we're fighting. Your career is important, but so is keeping our partnership strong." "Right," he nodded, clenching the coffee mug like a lifeline. "I wish I had a crystal ball to see how this will play out." As they shared breakfast, Jason felt a growing sense of clarity amongst the noise in his head. They talked about work and their plans for the weekend, light topics that masked the heaviness of the moment ahead. "Just remember," Maria said as the clock ticked closer to their departure, "you've got this. You're not alone." He drew a deep breath, able to feel her conviction buoying his own resolve. "Thanks for believing in me," he said. The drive to the office felt longer than usual. Each mile was filled with Jason's incessant worry over how Mark would react. The sun poured into the car, but shadows lurked in the corners of his mind. The office building loomed ahead, stark against the skyline, a battleground stretching before him. Maria parked and grasped Jason's hand. "Whatever happens in there, remember we're a team. You can't let fear dictate your actions." He turned to her, feeling the weight of her gaze. "You're right. I just want to protect what we're building." As they walked into the building, the atmosphere felt charged, electric with tension. With each stride toward Mark's office, Jason replayed their strategy in his mind. What if Mark did retaliate? Would he risk everything to stand his ground, or would he back down and let fear win? Mark was waiting in his sleek office, the sharp lines of the furniture echoing his unforgiving presence. "Jason, glad you could make it," Mark began, his tone neutral but his expression cold. Feeling Maria's unwavering support at his side, Jason straightened his back. "Thanks for seeing me. I'm ready to talk about how we can move forward." As they began to speak, Jason realized he was not just fighting for his business. The true battle was right here. A chance to stand tall against someone he had once feared, while also staking his claim to a future with Maria. But just as he began to settle into the discussion, Mark's expression shifted, a knowing smirk creeping across his face. "You think you're ready for this, Jason? You might not want to know what I have planned." A knot twisted tighter in Jason's stomach. This wasn't just conversation, it felt like stepping into a trap. As Mark leaned forward, releasing a subtle threat, Jason felt the tension in the room rise. He wasn't just at stake, Maria was too. In that moment, Jason had to decide. Would he stand firm, risking it all, or would he compromise for the sake of peace? The stakes were higher than he ever anticipated. Could he face the truth lurking behind Mark's words without losing everything he fought for? The question hung in the air, thick and suffocating, as Jason prepared to pull back the curtain on Mark's true intentions. The outcome would redefine everything: his career, his relationship with Maria, and the very essence of who he wanted to be. The silence in the room felt heavy, as if even the air itself was on edge. Jason's heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing the gravity of the moment. He looked at Mark, trying to read the emotion behind that smirk, but all he saw was stone-cold calculation. "Let's get straight to the point," Mark said, leaning back in his chair, the casual posture failing to mask the underlying hostility. "I know you've been in talks with other companies. You think you can just waltz out of here?" Jason swallowed hard. "I'm not trying to leave the company. I want to work together to make it better, to innovate." His voice took on a tone of defiance that surprised even him. Mark chuckled, a low, derisive sound. "Innovate? You think you can dictate this company's direction, Jason? You're nothing without my backing. You know that." The words hit Jason like a punch to the gut. The validation he craved was being stripped away in front of him. He felt Maria's grip on his hand tighten, drawing strength from her presence. This was not just about business, it was about self-worth. "I won't let fear rule this conversation," Jason replied, his voice a little steadier now. "We can expand and grow together, or what?" Mark interrupted, leaning forward, his demeanor shifting as if he was sensing Jason's newfound resolve. "You think you can intimidate me? Let's not forget who's in charge here." It was then Jason felt the weight of his decisions pushed down on him more than before. He remembered the reason for all this: the sleepless nights crafting plans, the relentless hours of work for a future he was striving to create with Maria. The vision of that life floated before him, a cozy home, laughter, and a shared partnership built on trust. He wasn't about to let Mark's threats jeopardize that. "I know I can't do this alone, but I also know I won't stand by while you threaten my career or my future," Jason asserted, surprising even himself with the fierceness in his words. "Maria and I are a team. I will protect what we have built." Mark's eyes narrowed, and for the briefest moment, confusion flickered across his face, quickly replaced by irritation. "You're making a huge mistake if you think you can turn the tide against me." The atmosphere crackled with animosity. Jason could almost feel the battle lines being drawn, every word used as a weapon. He needed to hold his ground, but it wouldn't just affect him. The reality of Maria's involvement struck him like a lightning bolt. If he failed, they'd both be collateral damage. Taking a deep breath, Jason stepped closer to the desk, locking eyes with Mark. "If this is about threats and intimidation, then we're not having the right conversation. You can either work with me as a partner, or you can be the reason I leave this place for good." Mark chuckled darkly. "Leave? You think they'll have you out there? You truly underestimate me." Jason felt the familiar surge of anxiety creep back, pooling in his stomach. Was Mark bluffing? Could he really make it so Jason had nowhere else to turn? The stakes had risen dangerously high, but Jason's determination hardened. "Maybe you underestimate who I am now," Jason replied, his voice unwavering. "I deserve more. We both do. So let's find a better way forward, or I'll take my chances." With that, he turned to Maria, taking her hand again. She offered a reassuring smile, and in that brief moment of connection, he felt clarity. Whatever consequences awaited, he wouldn't face them alone. "What's it going to be, Mark?" Jason asked, ready for whatever face-off was about to unfold. But his heart raced not with fear, but with the thrill of standing up for the life he wanted. Feeling the heat of tension envelop the room, Jason barely noticed the small hesitation in Mark's demeanor. The predator was sizing up his prey. What would Mark do next? Would he back down, or escalate this into an all-out war? The next move was critical. And as Jason prepared himself for whatever came next, he could sense that the real test of his courage was yet to come. Would he have the strength to confront Mark's darker plans? Or would he find himself ensnared in a dangerous game? A tense silence lingered in the air as all eyes turned to Mark. Jason's heart felt like a drum, beating against his ribs. He could sense the shift in the atmosphere, could taste the inevitable confrontation that was about to unfold. Mark's face hardened, and the smirk slipped away. You think you're a hero in some big corporate fairy tale? Let me remind you, this is a game of power. And I have the upper hand. His voice dripped with malice, sending chills down Jason's spine. Jason clenched his jaw, forcing back the urge to recoil. He couldn't afford to show weakness now, not in front of Maria. She stood next to him, an unyielding pillar, her presence a small flame warming the cold heat radiating from Mark. Jason could feel her support wrapping around him, and it fueled his resolve. I'm not looking to be a hero, Jason replied, his voice steady. I'm just looking for respect for both of us. We can save this company together, but it means we must collaborate, not threaten. Mark leaned forward, his eyes fierce, narrowing into slits. Collaborate? You're naive if you think I'd ever let you dictate anything around here. You think they care about your ideas? They care about results, and I'm the one delivering them. Your intentions mean nothing to them. Every insult landed like a blow. Jason clenched his fists, fighting back the rage bubbling to the surface. Mark was right, in a sense. The board members were driven by numbers and bottom lines. But there was something else, something more profound, that Jason knew would shine through if they only allowed it. Results come from new ideas, Mark, he shot back, his pulse racing. You can't keep running this place like a dictatorship forever. The world changes. And if you keep your head stuck in the past, you'll find yourself alone. I can help you adapt, but it has to be a true partnership. For a second, the room quieted, the tension thick enough to slice through. Mark's expression shifted. There was a flicker of uncertainty. Jason took a step forward, emboldened by the slightest crack in Mark's armor. Your methods might have worked before, but they'll fail you now, Jason urged. The employees are fed up. They want to feel valued, inspired. I can make that happen if you let me. Mark's gaze was hard, but a storm of calculations played behind his eyes. It was as if Jason had planted a seed of thought, and for the first time, doubt hung between them. But Mark had always been ruthless. Would he swallow his pride and consider Jason's proposal? It was a long shot, notably dangerous, but Jason felt instinctively that it could alter the course of everything. Jason turned slightly to Maria, seeking her silent affirmation. She squeezed his hand, as if to say he was right for standing his ground. Her unwavering belief ignited a spark of hope in Jason. He had to go all in. Let us do this, Jason said, his tone resolute, cutting back to Mark. Let us find a way to move forward that doesn't involve fear or threats. But if you decide to play your games, all you'll do is destroy what could be. The air grew more oppressive as Mark considered his next words. Jason could sense the chess match shifting, but would Mark play it cool and strategize from this point, or would he expose his hand and retaliate? Just then, without warning, the office door swung open, and Karen, their HR manager, stepped in, cutting through the tension like a knife. Her presence was a welcome interruption, but Jason could feel the weight in the room change yet again. What's happening here? She asked, her brow furrowed as she glanced between them. Jason exchanged a quick look with Mark. They both knew that the truth was about to make its way to the surface, and whatever hurdles lay ahead were nothing compared to the bond that propelled Jason forward. As he opened his mouth to respond, uncertainty flickered in his gut. Would this be the beginning of a new chapter or the end of the one he fought so hard to build? With hope and trepidation swirling within him, Jason braced for the next storm to hit. The atmosphere in the office shifted once again as Karen stepped forward, her presence demanding attention. Jason felt a relief wash over him, knowing they could no longer linger in the tension without resolution. We were just discussing some ideas for the future, he began, choosing his words carefully, seeking to maintain control. Mark shot Jason an irritated glance, but before he could interject, Karen leaned in. "I've been hearing some things around the office that concern me," she said, her brow furrowing deeper. "People are worried about the company's direction, and morale is low. They don't feel valued." Jason seized the opportunity. "That's what I was trying to communicate to Mark," he said, allowing the urgency in his heart to resonate in his voice. "Collaborating with our employees, making them feel seen and appreciated, is how we can turn this around. I want to ensure we build a solid foundation both for our team and the company as a whole." Karen nodded slowly, weighing his words. "We need a strong leader who listens," she said, her voice steady. "If you two want to argue over power, you'll drown the company, maybe even each other." Mark sat back, his expression hardening. Jason could see he was weighing his options, grappling with the entire situation. "This isn't a power trip for me," Jason said, diving deeper into vulnerability, letting the desperation of his heart bleed into his words. "It's about saving something we've all worked hard for. I want to let my daughter down. I want to let our people down." Karen's expression softened, understanding the stakes involved. "I think we need to bring this to the board," she said finally. "And Jason's right, making our employees a priority will only strengthen our position. But it will take all of us. We can't be at odds anymore." The tension escalated around them, and Jason sensed Mark's gears turning. After a moment of heavy silence, Mark finally broke, his voice a low growl. "If that's how you want to play it, then fine. But don't expect me to back down. I will remind you of your place." Jason felt his stomach twist, but he knew he couldn't let Mark intimidate him any longer. Suddenly, 8 months of stress, fear, and uncertainty flooded through him. He could feel Maria's hand tightening once more around his. Her presence anchored him, no longer just an employee or a friend. She was his partner, not just in this battle, but in life. "Mark," Jason said, channeling every ounce of confidence he could muster, "I'm done with the threats. If you want to undermine our progress further, you'll only expose yourself as the one in the wrong. This company can't succeed with that mindset. And neither can our lives." As Mark's eyebrows raised slightly in surprise, he faltered for just a brief moment. It was an opening. Jason did not waste the chance. "Let's take this to the board," he continued, his voice steady. "Show them that change can happen. Show them that business can be about cooperation and trust, not just intimidation. If you're willing to work together, we can build a future that matters." The room felt electric as Karen observed their exchange, her expression revealing she was processing everything. "Let's do it," she said finally. The dialogue began to shift, and a glimmer of hope sparked within Jason. They could do this together. As the weight snapped in Mark's stare no longer practiced hatred but uncertainty, Jason felt a rush of adrenaline. "But if you try to play a dirty game," he added, "then we will fight, and I'm ready for that if it means protecting my family and the people who work here." "What a fine puppet you are becoming, leading the charge against me," Mark hissed back, fury radiating from him. "But remember, you cannot eliminate me." With newfound confidence, Jason knew that he wouldn't let Mark win. Not again. He turned to Maria, sharing a moment of silent determination. His heart swelled, finding clarity in the chaos. The hope for a brighter future surged alongside him, igniting. As they stood there, defiance flaring in their hearts, Jason could feel the partnership they'd created coalescing into a unified front. He sensed that together with Maria and Karen, they could ignite real change and strip Mark of his power, not just in business, but in their lives as well. Moments later, as they stepped into a meeting with the board, Jason turned to Maria, her uncertain smile igniting the hope swelling in his heart. "Ready for this new beginning?" he asked, not just for himself but for her, for the life they were beginning to build together. "More than ever," she replied, her conviction brightening their path ahead. Suddenly, the door opened, and they were no longer looking at the shadows of the past, but rather embracing the light of a future forged between them. Jason felt liberated, ready to face whatever challenges awaited, knowing this was more than just about business or fear. It was about love, partnership, and building a life worth fighting for. And with next steps decided, the future had never felt so alive. Now, dear friends, this is your call to action. Subscribe immediately to our channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that are just waiting for you. Leave a like now. Let us feed that algorithm and keep this community thriving. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let us carry this journey together.